others, my friends. We must be ready for the night ahead. Together we stand. Forward. Forward.
You were not born into a religion. You were born into a world where everything already had a name. A name for what you should believe. A name for what you should reject. A name for what is called truth and what is not. And because those names were given to you early, you never experienced the moment before they existed. You never felt the space where nothing had been decided yet. But that space existed. Long before anything was written, long before anything was organized, long before belief became something you could explain, there was only awareness. A human standing in a world they did not understand. Not ignorant, not empty, just aware. Aware of the sky, aware of the ground, aware of something changing without knowing why it changed. The sun would rise and then disappear, not once, but again and again. And no one explained it. So the question formed quietly, what is this? What controls this? Why does it return after it leaves? And then something else happened, something heavier. Someone stopped moving. A body that once responded became still. The eyes no longer followed movement. The voice no longer answered. And for the first time, there was silence that felt different. Not empty, but final. And the question changed. Where did they go? Because something about it did not feel like it had simply ended. Something felt missing. And when the eyes closed, another world appeared. Dreams, voices, images, places that were not physically there, but felt real enough to be remembered. So now the question became deeper. If I can see what is not there, then what is real and what is not? This is where it began, not as religion, not as belief, but as a disturbance in understanding. A realization that reality might not be as simple as it appears. And from that realization came a feeling, a quiet, persistent feeling that something existed beyond what could be touched, not proven, not explained, but felt. And slowly, the world changed. Not physically, but in perception. The wind was no longer just movement. It felt like presence. Fire was no longer just heat. It felt like power. Water was no longer just survival. It felt like life itself. Everything began to feel like it meant something. And when something feels meaningful, you don't ignore it. You respond to it. So they responded. They moved. They gathered. They repeated actions that felt right. Not because they were told to, but because something inside them recognized something outside them. And this is important, because it didn't happen in one place. Different humans, separated by distance, by land, by time, arrived at similar feelings. no shared language, no shared teaching, and yet a shared experience. Which means this wasn't taught, it was discovered. But discovery does not stay pure forever. Over time, something begins to happen. What is felt begins to be explained. What is experienced begins to be described. What is personal begins to be shared. And when something is shared enough, it becomes structured. Stories are told again and again and again until they stop feeling like stories and start feeling like truth. Certain people begin to speak more than others. Certain voices begin to guide, to interpret, to define. And slowly, belief changes. It becomes something you don't just feel, but something you are taught, something you inherit, something you belong to. And then it is named. And the moment something is named, it becomes identity. And the moment it becomes identity, it creates separation. This is what you believe. This is what they believe. This is right, this is wrong. And over time, those lines become stronger. Stronger than the feeling that started everything. And slowly, without noticing, something begins to fade. Not completely, but enough to become harder to recognize. The original feeling becomes quieter. The direct connection becomes less clear. And what remains is structure, explanation, certainty. And now you are born into that. You inherit it. You accept it before you ever question it. And because of that, it feels like it has always been yours. But somewhere beneath all of that, there is something older, something you were never formally taught, but somehow still recognize. Not clearly, not fully, but enough to feel it in certain moments, in silence, in stillness, in questions you don't always say out loud. And sometimes it feels like you are remembering something you were never taught. So when you say, "This is what I believe," have you ever wondered what humans believed before belief had a name? And if something existed before, is it really gone? Or is it still there, quietly, beneath everything you now call truth?